Yikes. That was rough. That was really rough for Mississippi State. That was a really rough 2 days for Mississippi State baseball. And they lose the series to Auburn. I'm sure everybody was paying attention, but if you weren't, Mississippi State goes from giving up only 2 runs and 4 hits on Friday, but still losing the ball game, to clinging to dear life the last 2 ball games after building a big lead and losing 1 of 2. So State loses the series to Auburn in basically a must-win series for the Bulldogs, and they couldn't do it. A pitching staff that has seemed in the last before Saturday, in the last 4 SEC games, Mississippi State has looked like a team that was kind of turning the corner as a pitching staff. Looked like things were getting better for them, and they pitched it really well on Friday night. 4 hits. You only give up 2 runs. You should win almost every single ball game when you do that. State wasn't able to do it. They got a great start from Cade Smith. The offense just really struggled and couldn't get the big hits. Saturday, I thought the offense really came to play. They played really hard in that game and was able to build an 11-3 lead late in the ball game. They left Casey Hunt out there a little too long, and Auburn made it really interesting in that 9th inning. You go from an 8-run game down to a 1-run game with the tying run at third base and the winning run at the plate. Aaron Nixon was able to get a strikeout to end the game. On Sunday, you build a 7-0 lead in the game. Auburn was really struggling to pitch. They couldn't keep from walking batters and giving up big hits. They were making mistakes in the field. Durangelo Sanja was pitching fairly well for Mississippi State. You had a nice lead. The bullpen just absolutely blew it. They gave up 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings. They hit 4 batters. They walked 3 guys. They gave up 3 home runs. Home runs killed Mississippi State in the game. 4 home runs, I think, in the ball game. They accounted for, let's say they scored 12 runs. They accounted for, I think, 10 runs in the game. One guy, Cooper McMurray, had 4 home runs in the series. And in this game, he hit 2 home runs off of each foul pole. He hit 1 off the right field foul pole and 1 off the left field foul pole. And that really got him back in the ball game. Bryson Ware gave him a lead in the bottom of the 8th inning with a 3-run home run off Nate Dome. And then matters just got worse. Right after you just gave up the lead, Nate Dome grabs his elbow and walks to the dugout. He's out for the game and presumably could be out for the season. We kind of know in baseball where that goes. Whenever you have an injury to your elbow and that looks like what it was, we don't want to say for certain what it is, but it doesn't look good. I mean, for those of us who've been watching baseball for a long time, you kind of have an idea what that will be, and that's not good for Mississippi State. That's been one of your better bullpen pitchers and one of your better pitchers overall. This is a team that is in the middle of one of the worst pitching seasons in school history. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. This season has just been an absolute disaster. Scott Foxhall's guys just have not been good. They've encountered some injuries. Some guys aren't getting better, and just when you think things are starting to get better, it looks like they're getting even worse for Mississippi State because you lose one of your better bullpen pitchers. So just an absolutely devastating weekend for Mississippi State. They were clawing their way back in it, and I mean, you got to give this offense a lot of credit. They came out the last 2 days and battled their tails off, even tied the ball game in the 9th inning there on the David Mershon ground ball that wasn't fielded well enough by Bryson Ware. But you gave yourself a chance, and MSU's pitching just never was able to shut things down and stop the bleeding. Auburn was able to come out with a win. I mean, that's just an absolutely huge loss for Mississippi State, for a team that is trying to make postseason play. And really, you're looking at the rest of the schedule. State really needs to win 7 more ball games. Yeah, 7 more ball games to feel like they can make postseason play. And 7 wins against Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and LSU, it's hard to imagine. So State has found itself now in an almost improbable position where they have to win 7 games in the next 4 series, and they have arguably one of the tougher schedules in the SEC for the back half. You got a Texas A&M team that's playing really well right now. You got an LSU team that just swept Ole Miss and is a national title contender, is the number 1 team in the country. You got a Tennessee team that was struggling but just swept Vanderbilt, the top 5 team. So they look like they're finding things out. And then Arkansas team that's always tough. They didn't have a very good weekend, got swept, and they will be coming to Starkville. But I mean, that's a series that State has just not fared well in since probably 2018. So it's just it's not a good situation to be in if you're a Mississippi State fan, and having back-to-back years of a losing record in the conference, which is very likely at this point. State has 12 losses. It's incredibly unlikely that Mississippi State's able to keep this at only 4 more losses or 3 more losses in SEC play. So it's very likely State's about to have back-to-back losing seasons in conference play. I mean, this is just, it's really unacceptable. It's something that can't happen at a place like Mississippi State 2 years removed from a national title. You follow up a national title with back-to-back seasons like this, it's just not a good spot to be in. If your head coach Chris Lemonis, Scott Foxhall, that staff, I mean, this just is not a good situation for Mississippi State. But that's where things are for the Bulldogs. They're 23-17, I think, at this point, 6-12 in league play. You really need to win this series. A sweep would have been great. Mississippi State loses 2 one-run games. So this is just a team that right now is snake-bit, and they're snake-bit, but they're also not good at pitching the baseball. The offense has been top half of the league, one of the better offenses in the league, and you can't really blame them the last 2 days for what they've been able to do. I mean, back-to-back days where you scored double-digit runs. You should be able to win the ball game handily. State wasn't able to do that. They had an 11-3 lead on Saturday, nearly blew that lead. They had a 7-0 lead in this one on Sunday, blew that lead. So it's basically all on the pitching staff at this point. One bad game on the offense. You can't really blame what this offense has done so far. I mean, you're going to have some nights where you just don't perform well, but the pitching staff consistently being bad is, something that's been a constant problem for Mississippi State. And I don't think, I know people want us to ask Chris Lemonis, when he's going to fire Scott Foxhall or things like that. I'm not sure what we could ask at this point that's going to make anybody happy. It's not going to make any kind of difference. Chris Lemonis knows there's a problem. There's nothing Mississippi State can do right now as far as making a coaching change or anything like that. So Mississippi State's pitching is what it is until the end of this year. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. It really looks like it's probably going to get worse at this point with Nate Dome going out, and you have some injuries to Bradley Lofton, it seems. You have an injury apparently to Landon Gartman, who was out of the rotation this week. So State's just in a really bad place, and it's going to take a lot of changes on this roster and even possibly the coaching staff if this continues to turn this thing around. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen this season. It's just a rough situation to be in for Mississippi State, one that nobody thought Mississippi State would be in after winning that national title, but here they are. And the road gets even tougher now for the Bulldogs. This was the last series that you look at that was truly there for the taking for Mississippi State as far as playing a team that was struggling just as badly as they were as a pitching staff. Auburn has swung the bats fairly well, but as a pitching staff, they've not been good this year. They've been just as bad as Mississippi State, and they've been worse in some occasions. And on Sunday, they didn't really have anything left in the arsenal out there. Instead, they got a guy come in there throwing 82 from the left side that has a 10-run earned run average, and State was able to only get 1 run out of him. So it's, I can't blame the offense, though. I mean, they put up double-digit runs today, so you can't really blame the offense. But they were going to have to keep pace with what Auburn was doing, and they couldn't do it. So really another frustrating loss for Mississippi State, another frustrating weekend overall. And they fall in this series 2-1. So coming up next for Mississippi State, they got Ole Miss this Tuesday. They'll play at Trustmark Park in Pearl, Mississippi, home of the Mississippi Braves. And that's an Ole Miss team that's been struggling just like Mississippi State. State actually won that series against Ole Miss last week. So the Rebels got swept by LSU. They're sitting there at last in the SEC right now. So this is going to be an interesting midweek for the Bulldogs and the Rebels to kind of see probably whose pitching is, I guess, worse than the other. We'll see what happens there. And then Tennessee coming up this weekend on the road in Knoxville, rather, against a Volunteer team that has the talent, and it appears that they are kind of getting it together after getting a sweep this weekend against a really good Vanderbilt team, and they swung the bats really well. So that's not an offense that Mississippi State wants to face. But you got to play who's on the schedule, and that's what's going to happen for the Bulldogs next weekend. So make sure you stay tuned for all the Mississippi State information that we got coming out this week. About to head back from Auburn, head back to Mississippi and finish the rest of the weekend here. But I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll holler at you. Probably do a Talking Dogs session at some point this week to discuss baseball, maybe some basketball as well, and even some spring football if you guys want to talk about that as well. So we'll have that coming up this week. All right, guys, hope you have a great rest of the weekend and coming up week. We'll talk to you later.